Welcome back. This is Urdizzle with my walkthrough of the latest course in Disc Golf Valley downtown. I know this course has been giving some people problems trying to get those 3 stars, so hopefully I've got some tips and tricks that'll guide you through and get you those last stars that you need. And so my bag for this particular walkthrough, I've got my 2 putters, Accurate Sticky Keystone, and an Accurate Glide Pure. The Pure just got added recently for 1 or 2 holes. I really don't use it that often. It's just not a good disc for me, but serves its purpose. The Accurate Windbreak Fuse there is my main putter and throw-in disc, and then the Accurate Windbreak Compass, which is probably my least used disc after the Pure. Then we switch to the fairways, the Accurate Windbreak River, and the Accurate Roll Explorer. I love the roll. It's like sticky, and so it just grabs the ground, which is what I need on a lot of holes. The Accurate Windbreak Musket, the Accurate Glide Musket. So I do use 4 fairways, a lot more than a lot of people do. Then the Wind Glide Recoil, and the Glide Roll Ballista Pro. So similar to the Explorer, it likes to grab the ground, which I use quite a bit. And then the 2 big boys, the Light Glide Ballista Pro and the Glide Skip Ballista Pro. So I try to tailor my shots around these, and you can adjust based on the discs you have in the bag. Now, a common theme you're going to be finding starting on hole 1 here is if you don't have the big drivers, these holes aren't impossible, but they're significantly harder if you don't have a Ballista or Ballista Pro. And hole 1 is a perfect example to illustrate this. Off the tee, my preference is to throw a Glide Skip Ballista Pro, which I know a lot of people don't have, but basically your longest driver, preferably with skip. My ideal shot gets me to the top of this hill. Anything past the top of the hill is just a bonus and just shortens that second shot. So here, I don't like to go too far left because I like the wide right route because you're taking the water out of play, which really doesn't become an issue. But I also like this wide right route because there's no trees. Although you do notice that is one big change in downtown compared to some other courses. Those bushes do have collision at the bottom of them, so you're not just going to be able to slide through a lot of them. Now, if for some reason you don't have a Ballista Pro or a big one, you could throw a recoil, but the problem you're going to have is, obviously you got to avoid the lights, is getting up to the top of this hill, you're making your second shot significantly longer. So your goal is to get as straight and as high up that hill as possible, and then here I actually throw my recoil for the second shot, and I'm able to skip through. So if the recoil is the fastest disc you have, you can still birdie this. It's just going to make things a little bit harder. Now, if you decide to go disc down even more, I suppose you could throw a musket, but I just don't think the musket's going to get you as far as you need to. At least not as consistently as a driver. So that's a Light Glide Ballista Pro, which gets me down the hill there. So here we kind of have a dilemma. We can go left, right, up the middle. I'm actually going to throw my river right up the middle. And so this is slightly downhill. That's why that was 337, and I was able to get my river basically pin high. So it's all about knowing the elevation changes and when you can disc down. So here, if we mix it up a little bit and throw my musket. So I'm not saying you can't birdie this one, but if you have to do this on a regular basis, it's just not a good recipe for success. So here I'm 477 out, and I'm going to play that wide right route and just kind of let it fade back a little bit. And I'm hoping to get on the other side of that bush, which, again, the downhill does help. And so here I was in putting range. So inside 65 feet is putting. But again, if you have to do that on a regular basis, that's just not going to be successful long term. So hopefully you've got some better drivers. So we move over to hole 2, and this one is pretty straightforward, slightly uphill. We've got a couple lamp posts that'll get in your way on drives, but I prefer forehand on this one just because of the way the hole is shaped. And so my preference first here, you're going to see a forehand recoil. And I know a lot of people don't throw the recoil, but I love it. And that was actually a lot shorter than I normally get with the recoil. Most of the time I'm actually up on top of the hill within 20 or 30 feet. So even there, though, when it skips short, it still gives me a pretty easy putt. And then if we slowly disc down, so now this is the Accurate Glide Musket. And so that one I put a little more turn on it, and that one's going to skip nicely. So that one looked like it was a little closer than the recoil. But again, the recoil will normally be up there or even a little bit further. And then third shot here, we'll disc down a little bit. But you notice all these are forehand shots. There's really I don't really see the backhand line as being the preferred route here. So that one a little bit shorter than the other two, obviously, because the windbreak is not going to get as much ground play. A little high there, but still made it. And then I'm going to go to a river here, but the forehand river is not going to make it there. So I'm going to show you a backhand river. And I don't like the way the ground slopes for a backhand, but I suppose it's possible to leave you on the left and still make a reasonable shot. So here's 71 feet. Kind of dangerous if your throwing game is not accurate because it's really easy to go long. The only other shot I want you to show you guys is a skip disc where you can go for an ace run. Now this one right here is the glide skip, so it's way, way, way too much disc, but I'll show you how you can kind of land it short and skip up. But if you do that, it is long gone out of bounds. I think in my ace video that will be coming up soon, I used a turn skip Ballista Pro. That glide skips, even right there, that's just way, way, way too much disc. So I would definitely disc down to maybe a recoil or a ballista, possibly. Will get you up there where you need to be. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hole 2, not a whole lot going on. Should be a pretty easy birdie if you can avoid the lampposts. So while hole 2 I consider to be a relatively easy par 3, hole 3 is not. This is an extremely tricky par 3 with a little hill near the basket and then slopes down towards OB left and long. So my personal preference on this one is to throw my accurate wind musket and slam it into the hill. So that hill right there. Is just slam it in, which slows it down, and let it just kind of skip up over the top. I've found that if you try to go air shot and land up on top of that hill, it's just going to slide long half the time. Accurate glide musket, any drivers just go way too far. So here's another example again. Slam it into the hill, let it skip up, slide, 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 boom. And that's the play. I've tried wide right, wide left, higher rollers. That is the play if you want to keep it in bounds. So here we've got a tail crosswind of 2, and I'll show you like up the middle. So that's a river shot, and that's not really good because anytime you take that route, you're bringing that tree into play. And to get a shot, so we're going to try to throw it in here. To get a shot that doesn't bring that tree into play, you're going to have to play it a little further to the left, and any further to the left, you're going to get those skips that go out of bounds on the sidewalk. So it's just not a smart play. Let's try. So for example, here, this is the glide, which you can throw if there's a headwind, but see right there, that just skips. And if that bush is not there, that's out of bounds. Like, I just think the accurate glide is just too much. The accurate glide musket, that is. So that's my play, slam it into the hill. And I've seen some other options here, and so I really don't like the up the middle route, but I have seen some people do this wide left route, and I haven't thrown it a ton. I've thrown it enough to know I don't like it. Because right there I threw a recoil, and I'm quite a ways back here, and 87 feet, like even with that tree in the way, like that's going to be, oh God, I have no idea how that stuck. But I mean, you're really bringing that into play, and I just don't think it's the best option. So if I disc up a little bit, so this is my light glide Ballista Pro, and that'll get a bit more skip, but still, I just don't see how that's any better than the musket shot. It's a little more unpredictable. You're banking on a skip over that hill that's near the basket. I don't see it as a high percentage shot. So again, we can try this one again. So again, this is what I like to do. Slam it into the hill, skip it up over the top, and worst case, it's a little bit short, and it should be a pretty easy putt as long as you can avoid this tree here. Just nothing too bad about that. So I wish there was something more complicated, and I say it like it's easy, but this is most definitely not an easy hole. So that's something you'll have to practice, especially if you don't have the musket in your bag. All right, hole 4 is the first really tricky hole in the course, I think. Hole 1 had some unique characteristics. Hole 3 was a little tricky. This one can really hit you hard because you have to play up the fairway. You've got trees lining the right side, and then you've got the basket really close to the sidewalk. So your first drive is really a positional drive. So my first preference here is a glide skip Ballista Pro. Basically, pick whatever disc you have that's max distance and get it as far up the fairway as you can. So what that does is that leaves me a 260-foot shot, and I actually like this because I can run it a little bit, and that missed. So that was my river. I actually like the Explorer as well. One of the reasons I keep my accurate roll Explorer is I can run shots like that and not worry about it skipping long. So we'll see if we can get a shot to kind of illustrate what that looks like. So again, there's that skip disc again, up the fairway. So if you don't have the Glide Skip Ballista Pro, that's fine. A light skip, a Glide Skip Ballista, whatever you've got. So right here, this is a good example of I'll throw the Explorer, and watch this. It's just like glue. So any other disc is probably going to skip. Not really long, but I feel comfortable that I can run that and not worry about the Explorer going too far away that I won't have a putt. All right, another option, we've got a light glide ballista, so that'll give you a little more air. And you want to keep it to the right, obviously, because it's shorter on your second shot, but you also want to avoid those lampposts. So here you go, 260 again. I'm going to throw my Explorer out wide, let it come back, and that's going to be a good run. Oh, just missed it. But right there, see, it just grabs the ground and sticks. So if there was ever a course that I could show you as the reason why I keep a roll disc, this is the course. Now, if you don't have those, you could always switch to, for example, here's a recoil. But again, if you're throwing a recoil as your best disc, my advice is to go 3-star other courses. But if you don't have that choice, the problem is you are way back here. So 325, I'm going to throw my Accurate Wind musket, and that's probably going to go out of bounds. Oh my God, that's stuck. So the shorter your drive is, the longer the approach, and the longer the approach, the less likely you are to stick it close to the basket there. And if you're going to err on the side of caution on those approach shots, you want to go long. And so here, this is a musket. So if all you have is a musket, you're going to have to play it short. Now, if you really want to play it safe, another option here is to play the musket, and then instead of trying to cross on your second shot, that's a forehand accurate glide musket, and lay yourself out here, you're 100, 120 feet, and go for the throw-in. I mean, that is an option. This one, that might be a little low. Yeah, it's low. But if you want to play it safe, you're too far back. I mean, if you're 380, 370 feet back and you're just not comfortable with the approach, just lay it up to the fairway and go for the throw-in. Worst case, you get a par as long as you don't do anything stupid. Now, another option that I've seen a lot of people talk about is doing a roller. And I haven't really messed with the ground here for rollers. That's probably going to finish left. Yeah, it's not good. And I get the idea behind the roller. Personally, I haven't had as much success with the roller as I have with the air shot. So let's see if we can fix that a little bit. All right, so that'll stand up a little better. Oh, miss. Now, there's something about that curb, and this is why a lot of people like throwing the roller on this, is because that curb will stop a lot of your rollers, not all of them, but a lot of them from going into the road. But I don't get any better results with this than I do with my Ballista Pros. That one's much better. That is going to be a bomb. That's going to keep going. That's 600. That might even be 650 plus. Keep going. That is long. Yeah, 654. That's about as long a roll as you're going to see. And then 236 here. And so we're going to throw the fuse. That's kind of a run, but not really. So I don't find the rollers to be consistent. So if you can consistently get them down on the ground going straight, I say go for it. Let me try to turn one over a little bit too much and show you what happens when it hits the sidewalk. Okay, I didn't mean to turn it over that much. Yeah, that might actually go in the road. Boom. So that's what the sidewalk does. Now, it does not do that on every shot, and it doesn't do that at every spot. But then right here, you're pretty much screwed. You're 400 plus feet back. I'm going to throw the skip disc. Yeah, and I mean, that's what you got. You've got all that room to work with. So err on the side of caution and try to get it back there, and that's not going to work. Almost skipped out of bounds. So yeah, I think the play is just to get as far up the fairway as you can. Hopefully you have a roll disc and something that can just grab the ground. All right, hole 5. This is the first of the 2 par 5s, and I think the easier of the 2. Ferris wheel par 5. So the play here is to try to get around the corner, and you got to be careful right to the right there. There's a Mando tree, so once you hit the corner, you got to be careful that you're not in that little fenced-in area because that is out of bounds. And right here, I almost never play this area out to the left unless I make a mistake. Most of the time, if you get a good drive, you're going to be thrown over the water with your second shot. And then luckily the basket is kind of perched up here on this incline, so you can be a little more aggressive with your upshots. So my play here, I'm going to throw the the glide skip ballista, and I just throw it straight, and that's actually going to go too far to the right. Hit the fence. Okay, so that was pretty fortunate, and I don't think, see, I've got the Mando that I still got to deal with. I didn't quite get far enough to the left like I wanted, so we're going to have to play it out here, hopefully inside 200, Yeah, so this is a pretty low percentage. I mean, I'll still get birdie. We're going to try to run this for eagle, but most of the time from out here, you're just going to go ahead and settle for your birdie, and that's going in. All right, well, that works. That's not going to happen very often when you're that far back. So let's see if we can make the adjustment a little wider left. And I think I just made the exact same mistake. Now, the good thing is I'm not going in the fenced-in area. I'm literally in the same spot. Maybe a little closer. All right, let's try it again. Forehand. I'm a little closer, though, so I think I can... Oh, clear the water, clear the water. I can get a more reasonable throw in, yeah. So what are we, 102? Let's see, we're going to go ahead and throw in with the fuse. Bam. So those are 2 eagles, but those are 2 eagles that I really had to work at. So let's see if we can not hit the fence this time. So maybe I put a touch of hyzer on that one, or anhyzer to turn it over. And that might actually be too wide. Yeah, and I did not get a good skip. So we are 600 feet here. This is most likely not going to be anything I can deal with. So we're just going to play it out wide. And I had said in the flyover that I'm never out here, but I ended up being out here. But even out this way, you're 380. That's just a musket shot, especially if you have the accurate glide musket. Toss it in there. So this is one of those, it's not a gimme eagle. And I think a lot of people want to know, like, what's the route to get an eagle? What's the route to get... You're not going to get an eagle 100% of the time. It's just, there's a lot of different variables in play here. And even if you get, that's a perfect shot. So even if I do that perfect shot, I'm not guaranteed to get the skip like I did there. I'll be actually pretty annoyed if I don't eagle this one. So we're going to go light glide, Ballista Pro. That should be parked. That right there is how you play it. So it has to be a good shot, good skip disc. And if you don't have the Glide Skip Ballista Pro, you're probably not going to get as far out there. That doesn't mean you're not going to eagle it, but you're probably not going to be up right by the basket. So this is yet another example, though. If you don't have the big drivers, you can still succeed, but your chances of eagling or birdieing some of these holes is just a lot lower. It is what it is. So that's why I always suggest if you have not 3-starred, oh, that's really bad. Yeah. If you've not 3-starred the other courses, for example, Coyote, do that one to at least get a Ballista Pro if you don't have any of the other ones. Yeah, so we'll settle for par on that one because I went out of bounds, but that is the play. Now, I have seen some people try a roller. I will show you a roller here. Now, see, with the wind of 3, this would be ideal. We're going to go ahead and actually do the musket route. I was going to do a roller, but we decided against that because with that wind, I want to see what I can do with a musket. So this is not, I'm not trying to get an eagle on this one. This is just what you do with the musket to try to get birdie. For those of you that don't have, man, that was not a good shot. So this is definitely a course you want to play, though, so you know where the water is. So if you do play that first shot a little short, you know where to play your second shot. And I think we can get this one. Yeah, I almost threw my pure there. I left that short. I added the pure to my bag for a couple holes. I'm just not used to having it. I'm used to having my putter and then my fuse right next to it. All right, so let's go ahead and try the roller now. And this, again, is very unpredictable. Ideally, you want it to get down there and kind of at the very end turn over to the right. That one is not going to flip over. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes OB long. Yeah, it's way, way, way too long. I mean, it's a good straight roller, but that's not what we want here. We want something that'll kind of finish to the right, almost like a forehand drive. So let's make a slight adjustment. That should be better if I can miss the tree and rock, which I'm not going to. Yeah, that was not good. So even from right there, you're not going to get eagle because, look, we haven't hit the, see right there is the Mando tree, so we have to play it further out. I'll show you what happens, though, if you try to cut the Mando. That's going to go in the water, but I think it's going to give me a missed Mando message. It did. So the reason I wanted to show you that is this is the Mando shot, and if you have a light glide Ballista Pro, you can I won't say easily, but you can definitely get up and down from right there, as long as I don't get pinned behind a tree. Yeah, it's not too bad. Do a little straddle here. So that is the play. Again, a lot of these, they're not gimme eagles, but if you're just trying to get a birdie out of it, I should be a pretty easy hole. Hole 6, on the other hand, is not an easy hole. This is the harder of the 2 par 5s. And the reason I think this is so challenging is, one, you've got the fence right there. So if you try to cut it too close and right up against the fence, you're not going to have a shot because you will actually hit the fence on your approach. The second thing is you've got the water in play. Third is you've got an elevated basket. And then the fourth that probably won't come into play is you do have OB back behind the basket. So you have to be a little aware of how aggressive you want to be. So right to left window 3 is good for our second shot, but we've got to be careful here with the drive. So I'm going to put some turn on that to get close, but not too close to the fence. That right there was a lucky light pull because I would have been right up against the fence and I would have been in bounds, but I would not have had a shot. So my second here with a tailwind of 3, go, 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 just barely. That was any other wind and I don't make it across. And so at some point here, I'll show you what the layup zone is to get your birdie, but that was a fortunate eagle. All right, so one wind, we're going to play the exact same shot, and hopefully that's much, much, much better. That's where you want to hit. Somewhere out here, and notice the ground is slightly inclined as you move away from the fence. And 437, I don't have to aim really low. I'm going to go my Light Glide Ballista Pro, and I think I can clear that. And you do have a little room out to the right, so don't feel like you have to go right at the pin, which I did there. You can aim a little further right, and it's shorter to clear the water. Obviously, it'll give you a little bit longer putt or throw in, but if your goal is just to get across into, that is a better option. And so you can also throw the Light Glide if you don't have the Ballista Pro. And that was awful. So that right there pretty much takes eagle out of play. 566. So the layup, you do have quite a bit of room out here to the right of the Ferris wheel. And I played that one pretty aggressively. But even further right, you're okay. Right here, 237. I mean, that's a fuse. Easy fuse into the basket. Put a little bit of turn on it. And again, easy birdie. Now, I know if you're trying to 3-star this course, you have to be careful because we have hole 7 lurking. And so ideally, you want to get an eagle on either 5 or 6. So my thing is if you don't get an eagle on either 5 or 6 and you're really trying to 3-star this, I would probably reset. Because you really, really, really need one going into 7. All right, so now I want to show you what it looks like with muskets. That was not a good drive, but again, if we're just trying to play for birdie, we're going musket, musket, and that was not a good shot. That was awful. So let's see if we can play it out wide here. And this is where you just got to get a little creative. See what I mean, though? You've got more room to work with out to the right. And even with a bad drive and a bad second shot, I still was able to get across and get my birdie. So obviously it's not the eagle you're looking for, but very reasonable hole. If you got a, let's see what else we want to try here. So let's play that glide skip again. And there's another bad drive. Yeah. So I was hoping to get one a little closer to the fence there to show you what it would be like if you actually hit the fence, but why don't we just go way, way, way long here. So see, this is the area I was talking about. You have a lot of room to work with up here. And we're quite a ways off, though. I wanted to be closer to the water. So I'm going to go musket. So even into a headwind, that is downhill a little bit. That was 359 feet into a headwind with an accurate glide musket. So again, if you're going for the 3 stars, I might actually reset if I were you. If you don't get an eagle on one of those two. All right, now the beast, hole 7. This is probably one of the hardest par 3s in the game. I would say it's one of the top 3 hardest holes, right up there with Frozen Valley number 2, and I'd have to think of what other holes that are out there that are extremely difficult. So I want to show you guys distance-wise what this looks like. So that was my Light Glide Ballista Pro. And I think what makes this challenging is a number of factors. Is yes, it's got a small green. Yes, it's got an elevated basket. But I think what makes this more difficult, okay, now a second shot. So that was clearly way too long. We're going to throw the recoil. Is the distance. If this was a 380-foot hole, you could probably throw a musket or something else that's accurate. But if you're forced to throw a driver, it's just such a challenging shot to land it on the island, get it to stick on the island, and make your putt on the elevated basket. Okay, so the recoil looked like it was about the correct distance. Obviously, I'll have to tweak the left to right. And right there, that was my accurate glide musket. That's just, unless you've got a strong tailwind, I just don't think that's enough disc. So if we switch back to the recoil... And again, not having the accurate... Oh, that's a good one. Stick, 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 stick. There we go. Now, that's only going to be a par because I did rethrow that, but that's the shot. Now, the problem is, can you hit that every time? Or I know a lot of people don't even throw recoils. They throw ballistas. So you really don't have an option on that front. Let's try it again. And if you can hit the land, I mean, that's reasonable. So right there, I'm actually quite a ways back. This is probably too far, but we're going to go ahead and throw that. Yeah. But one of the shots you should practice. I don't care what shot you like throwing off the tee. This is the shot right here you should practice. 100. Oh, that was way long. 100 to 140 feet from this side of the water. And the reason for that is this is actually my preferred play here. I will throw a forehand river, play it short, and then just go for the throw-in. For me in my throw-in game, I think it's a higher percentage shot. So I will go with my accurate sticky fuse. Or excuse me, not fuse, my keystone. And I'm able to birdie that. I feel comfortable that I can hit that about half the time. If I'm a little closer, 110, like closer to the water, I feel like I could make it more often. But this shot to me is a higher percentage shot than trying to nail it onto the green. And you have to be comfortable enough, like right there I missed. Whew, that was close. That you're still going to be on the island and you can still make your putt for par. So that's what you have to weigh your options is what is your short game like? How comfortable are you with the throw-ins? How comfortable are you with the putting? But for my money, it's a safer bet to play it short. Again, we'll do it again here. Yep. And just go for the throw-in. Now, this is a little further back, so I'm not as comfortable from 140. This is one I might actually consider laying up. Don't go out of bounds. Okay, so I got that one. Anything inside 150, I'm okay with. 148 was kind of pushing the upper end of that, where you got to be careful if you skip off the top or ricochet off the basket into the water, you're going to end up with a bogey. So if you want to go recoil off the tee or driver and you're comfortable that you can hit the island and you're going to have an easy, even if it goes out of bounds, you have a putt for par, that's fine. There we go. But again, that's my shot, but that's my game. You have to tailor your shot selection to whatever your strengths are and whatever you're comfortable with. Now let's go one more and see what we can do. Now I always have trouble judging the elevation on this, though, because that's going to be low. I kind of jinxed myself there. So the closer you are to the water, the lower you are. So it's almost like I throw the same power shot if I'm near the water at 110 feet as I do when I'm 130 feet. Just because the closer you are, you have to have a little more power and a little higher aim. And so right there, one more time with the recoil. And that's actually a reasonable shot. I mean, I'm not going to bogey it. I'm also not going to birdie it. So just get my par and get out of there. And now we move on to hole 8. And this is a sucker hole. Because everybody sees these and nobody understands placement. And by the way, see this camera flyover? This is not the path you want to take to the basket. But I call this a sucker hole because everybody wants to pull out their driver. They see the length of the hole. They see par 4. They see 821 feet, and they're like, I've got to go driver, I've got to go driver, I've got to go driver. So you go glide skip or whatever you've got, and you skip it. And that was actually not awful. I went out of bounds, but not a good shot. Okay, what if you decide to go, hey, let's not go skip, let's go light glide Ballista Pro. And even that one seems like it's okay, but you got this curb right here. And so that's why I call this a sucker hole. Even if you make it across, you're going to have to go through that middle gap of trees, which I think is an awful idea. So here's my shot. I will throw an accurate windbreak musket short. Right here. Perfect. And so now, if you look straight at the basket, you've got all those trees. But if you look to the right, there's this huge gap over here. So there's no point in going right at the basket. I will throw either a light glide Ballista Pro or my glide skip and just throw it. Oh, damn, that almost went in. Jeez. Was not expecting that. I actually wanted that to be a little wider right. But throw your driver out to the wide right and just get yourself a putter throw-in. To me, this is the higher percentage shot because even if you clear the street on your drive, you are not going to have a clear path to the basket. Occasionally, so right here I have a headwind of 3. I'll throw the accurate glide musket, and that was not a good shot, but somehow managed to work its way back in. I have no idea how. But again, I'm not going at the basket. I'm going to throw it out to the right like that, let it fade in. And even if you clip the branches, as long as you don't hit the tree trunks, you're okay. Clip the branches might actually help you and give you a shorter putt. So even there, that was not a great drive, but to me, that's an easy birdie. So we shift over again. Here's the accurate windbreak musket. Throw it right up the middle. And it doesn't even have to be all the way up by the street and the sidewalk. In fact, I would argue that you don't want it that close. So here I'm going to go, I will go glide skip if I'm way, way, way back. But if I'm a little closer and I've got a tailwind, I'll go light glide. And again, there you go. 3 times in a row. It's just such an easy route. Play it short, play it wide right with your driver, take your birdie, and get out. Now, some other options here. I'll sometimes throw my forehand musket depending on the wind. So feel free to adjust, but you pick whatever disc you want that's going to get you dead center, as close to dead center as possible, without risking going too far. All right, so now that one, not a great shot. It was into a headwind, so I left myself back. And here, normally I would probably be a little less aggressive, but since this is the walkthrough, I'm going to go for it. And that was not a good shot. And I'm worried about this branch right there. And I bogeyed that one. But that right there, I can still get a par out of that if you play smart on your approach shot. So for me, if I'm playing in a multiplayer or pro tour, I'm never going to bogey it like that. I'm going to play it much smarter than I did right there. So let's do another smart play here. So there's the musket, plenty short of the sidewalk. Take your driver, throw it out to the right. Let it fade back in, and who cares if you go too far right? Even with the skip disc, it'll skip off the fence and you're good to go. There, that to me is worst case scenario, 80 feet out. And that's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, we're going to end downtown with hole 9, and this is a great ending hole. Lots of elevation change. I do like the elevation change holes. It's just fun. It makes you think a little bit about what discs you should use. I'm not sure how I feel about all these elevated baskets, but they're in there whether we like them or not. So the play on this one, I'm going to start with a glide skip Ballista Pro, which I personally think is too much disc. Oh, that was so bad. I'm not going to lie. I didn't even read the wind. That was a right to left of 3. I just wasn't paying attention. So let's try that again. So left to right wind of 3. That's the glide skip Ballista Pro, and that's probably going to go way long. Okay, that was really lucky. Most of the time, you're going to get significantly more skip than that. So even though that seemed like it worked out pretty well, that is not normally what your skip discs are going to do, especially going downhill. You're going to get a lot more. I like to throw the recoil. Now, I'm going to throw it the light glide Ballista Pro here because of the headwind. Normally, I would throw the recoil. And so that one, I like the light glide. But you guys are going to find that not only is this downhill because you're throwing off of a building, but the ground is also sloping down away from you from the tee. So your heavy drivers, your light glide, your glide skip, are going to want to skip, keep going much further than you'd expect them to. All right, so this is what I like to throw is the recoil. And I like it because I can control it a little more. And to me, that's perfect. Gets a little roll away, but now you've got to have a lot of flexibility because I like the recoil, but there's a lot of winds where I would not throw the recoil because I don't think, 1, it wouldn't be far enough, and 2, I don't think it would give me the skip I want. So right here, this is a light glide Ballista Pro, and right here, this looks like it's good, but I got to watch the ground. And see, that's what I'm talking about right there. The ground, that looked like it was a great shot and it was going to give me a putt, but it literally just skipped 150 feet. And so that is what you have to take into account when you're throwing a light glide Ballista Pro, any of those big drivers. So we're going to try window 1. We're going to throw the recoil again. And that's good, but I think it's going to be a little short, which I don't mind being short because then I can go for my throw. And that's quite a bit shorter than I wanted. 133. That is that's Keystone range. Yeah. Which I feel comfortable with that, but I know a lot of people are going to want to get closer than that. Other options, I've got a glide roll Ballista Pro. And the reason I like that is because it basically acts like a sticky disc. So right there, normally that would go out of bounds. But the sticky we're going to try that one more time just to show you what it does. There we go. It will grab the ground and just Velcro. Boom. Look at that. Now, if that was a light glide, that thing would have skipped out of bounds long. So if you don't throw a recoil, maybe think about throwing a wind glide Ballista or even a forehand Ballista. Like, don't be afraid. Remember, forehand discs or about 80% power from your regular backhand. And so if you're throwing driver and the driver keeps going, now that's a musket. I just want to show you that the musket is way too short. But if your drivers are going too long, switch to forehand. You have some different trees you have to take into account, but it'll at least dial the power back a little bit for you to give you a reasonable shot. So that is it. That is our downtown course. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the walkthrough, got some tips that'll help you 3-star. Again, my advice is try to birdie holes 1 through 4, try to eagle hole 5 or 6, and if you can't eagle 5 or 6, I don't want to say quit. If you go birdie on 5 and 6, maybe try hole 7, and if you can get the birdie on 7, great. But if you go birdie on 5, birdie on 6, and then par on 7, just reset. Because if you're counting on an eagle on 8 or a hole in 1 on 9, it's just not realistic. It's doable, but you're not going to get your 3 stars. So that would be my advice. Try to get the eagle on 5 or 6, and hopefully you guys get your 3 stars. And I will see you guys next video. We do have a couple ones coming up. I'm working on a series that goes over my forehands, so I'll kind of walk you guys through my forehand fuse and my forehand keystone and how I do those. And then once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be dropping a video that's going to be an ace on every par 3 in the game. So that's coming, but I want 100 subs before I get there. All right, I'll see you guys next video.